Welcome to Next to Madison, a podcast to help you live your best life.
Welcome back to another episode of Next to Madison. I'm your host, Madison Malloy, and on this episode, we are talking hypnotherapy. What is it? How is it beneficial? Can it help you? I'm sitting down with an amazing hypnotherapist named Jaina Jordan, and I have done a session with her. It personally changed my life. I just booked another session because it was so amazing. Can just help you release some of those blocks and those hurdles that could be holding you back. So definitely listen to this episode. We talk a lot about feminine energy. We talk about boundaries as well as hypnosis. She gives you some exercises that you can do to kind of, go through and ease some anxieties and also really, really learn those lessons from things that might not have gone as you planned. This is a great episode, and we kind of cover the gamut. But if you're looking to manifest more money, get out of your own way, live a happier life, then this episode is absolutely for you. So stay tuned and we'll be right back after this brief message.
Hey, it's Madison Malloy. I just wanted to remind you to make sure you grab a copy of my book, Time to Lighten the Fuck Up. It is a great, funny self-help book that is going to help you get out of your own way. I have already helped thousands and thousands of people, and they are on their way to living their dream life, and I want every listener to be able to live their dream life as well. So grab a copy of the book on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or even the audiobook on Audible. Now back to the show. All right, we are back with our amazing guest on this episode. I'm so excited to have her on. I actually had a session with her, and it was honestly life-changing, and I've been able to take those tips and tricks that she provided me in that session and continue to use them. And it's just helped me stay in a higher vibration and feel better and shift into that positive abundant state. So with that being said, I'm going to bring on our guest, hypnotherapist, coach, and power mom herself, Miss Jaina Jordan. How are you?
Hi, I am great, Madison. How are you?
I am good. I'm so excited to have you on here. So I talked about, obviously I had a session with you for hypnotherapy. So I want you to talk about what hypnotherapy is and why it is so beneficial.
Yes. Okay. Hypnotherapy, first of all, the misconception is that it's mind control. And it is. So first, I'm telling you, it's not mind control. And what hypnotherapy does is it takes your conscious mind and kind of like puts it to the side a little bit. And then you're talking directly to the subconscious mind, which is where all of your creativity is and all of your emotions are. Even it doesn't have any sort of boundaries. So you're kind of limitless with time and space. Whereas your conscious mind is more linear, it's thinking about what time is it, the day, and with your subconscious mind, like there is none of that. So it's really like unlimited. It's amazing.
Yeah. And I remember when we were doing our session, we had done it over Zoom. So you guys can book a session with her on Zoom. I was laying on my couch, had my computer there. And it was funny, like some of the questions you were asking is not the way I would respond had I been sitting up and not been in the session.
Right. Yeah.
So it was a very relaxing. I wish it could have gone on for hours. Like it was
I know.
zone. But I find myself trying to visualize myself back in that safe space, like where you had me go. So no, it is true. You think when you hear this, you go, how could they get my conscious mind? That's me talking, me listening, me operating to step the fuck aside. I don't know how to explain that, but it does.
Right.
So just
yeah.
give it a shot.
And it's just like with all the tools and techniques that I have in that, like studied for a really long time. And I don't know if you've ever heard of Richard Bandler and Milton Erickson. They're kind of like the modern fathers of hypnotherapy. So they've like gone through so many techniques that you can do to like take that conscious mind and kind of like, you're not putting it to sleep because you're still awake and you're still aware of what's going on so that you aren't mind controlled. So if I would have said something to you that wasn't on par with like your morals or your values, you would have snapped right out and been like, no, this isn't right. So it's called rapport. So I would have lost rapport with you had I done something like that. But obviously we had a great time.
No, we did. Absolutely. So what are some of the things that people can use hypnotherapy for? How does somebody say, yeah, that's going to benefit me besides the obvious, which is smoking?
Smoking, yeah, that's the super obvious. People can use it for pain relief. They can use it, and actually I have a story about that. I was doing a session with a guy. It was like we were doing practice sessions when we were learning, and he had just started asking me all these questions, and I'm like, I don't know why, but my subconscious is telling me like the pain in my back. So he just did like this little like trance with me, and my pain in my back stopped. It was like the most amazing thing. I'm like, I don't feel pain in my back anymore. And I was like to the point where I was like, I might need to end this call because it's so uncomfortable.
Yeah,
So you
that's
could use it for,
unbelievable.
yeah, I know. And you
Actually
could use
heard a
it.
story where somebody said they had a hypnotist come in.
Mhm.
They were giving childbirth and they didn't even do
Yes.
anesthesia or anything because they
That's
hit
another great one.
and
Yep.
holy cow.
Yes. So you can do it for surgery. And I'll just go back a little bit into the history of this. And if I get geeked out, just cut me off because I can like go like Star Trek mode, like, Star Trek used to. Anyway, so way back before anesthesia, they started using hypnotherapy or hypnosis for pain control, like when they'd have to do surgeries.
Yeah.
And what they found was that people who do hypnosis instead of like anesthesia, when anesthesia started coming back around again, they saw that people would recover like so much quicker than people who did like common anesthesia. So, unfortunately, because of all the medical things going on and, insurance companies, hypnosis isn't recommended anymore. And it actually was banned in the US until like in the 30s, just because of that kind of thing, just because of the medical
So it's
field. And
interesting. It kind of makes me think that maybe pain is only in our conscious mind.
yeah,
We're actually operating in our subconscious mind, which controls what, 90+% of our life.
yeah, like 95. Yeah,
And that's kind of why they say, like, once you get to the subconscious mind, like your paradigm or your blueprint, you can
hmm,
create anything because there's no time,
exactly.
no space, there's no reality. It's just
Yes,
what it is. So it's a fascinating thing.
yeah. There's stories of like there was one woman that I was reading about, and she kept rubbing her leg. She's like, "Oh, my leg hurts. My leg hurts." Well, somebody gave her something, an alternative to look at and to think about, and she stopped rubbing her leg, and she goes, "Oh, my pain's gone." So it was like that. Just the rubbing of her leg was causing the pain in her mind. Like it was causing her mind to register it as pain, just because she had been doing it for so long. So she had already created like that
Yeah.
neural pathway.
I know, and it's so amazing. I mean, that's kind of like where the placebo effect comes in a little bit. You're really
Yes.
sick and you go to the doctor and they write you a prescription, and before you even fill the prescription, you start feeling better.
Oh, that's so amazing. Yes, it's the power of suggestion.
Or they can give you a fake
Yes.
pill and it still works. It's
Yep.
it's amazing how we can actually. So somebody coming to somebody like you and going through one of these sessions can actually help somebody kind of almost like separate those two
Yeah.
minds where
Yep.
people just think that they're operating on one mind to where you can be like, okay, I'm feeling pain or I'm feeling lack or I'm feeling scared or whatever it is, and then be like,
Yeah.
but my subconscious mind doesn't know any of that. So let's flip into that zone.
Yes. Okay. So that's an interesting thing that you said is disconnect them. When what is actually happening is that your subconscious and your conscious mind, like if you're having those kinds of issues, they're not working in rapport. And what hypnosis does is, yes, it'll take the conscious mind out of your thought process for that moment. But what it does is actually helps your conscious and subconscious work in rapport with each other so that whenever you are living consciously, then you're able to rewire your brain better because you have these alternate routes to go to, so to speak. So
Yeah.
like let's say like you're so used to doing like a morning routine and you go and you do the same thing, you drive your car to the same place, see the same people, blah 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 blah. And then you're like, I don't know what just happened. I don't even know how I got here. I don't even know how I got home. It's
Yes,
because you're
it's scary.
living. Yes, right. Well, there's highway hypnosis. So if you ever are like, how did I
Yes,
get here? That's a
yes,
thing.
frightening.
Yeah, right, exactly. But then you are choosing to live unconsciously in your life. So then hypnosis actually helps you, and you don't even have to really get into like the traumas and all that kind of stuff that maybe you don't want to relive. Because let's face it, there's not always traumas that you want to go back into because they're just so horrific. Well, you can use hypnosis to go to these traumas without actually having to recreate them and to remember them. So
Yeah.
it does help with that too. And then you're able to start living consciously so that you're like, okay, this is what I would normally do. Let's say go off in a rage. But then you're able to like stop yourself and say, okay, I'm going to choose a different path. And the more different path you choose, rather than going down the same hole that you've always gone through, the more that you're going to start rewiring your brain, and then your behaviors will start to change.
So, what do you think with consistency? How many days to rewire your brain? Is it 21?
Well, it kind of depends on, sometimes it can take a year. I mean, I don't know. There's not really any set standard for that. It's just kind of like, it kind of depends on the person and how much wiring is going on, like how deep does the rut, so to speak, go.
Yeah.
But like to create a new habit, it's like 21 to 40 days, I think. So you
Yeah.
can kind of go with that. But and then also it has to do with like um how much work are you doing? You know, are you actually like working on this, or are you kind of like haphazardly doing things? So it kind of all depends.
Yeah. No, it's just so
Yeah.
interesting, and how it's, it's like we hear about all this, the laws, attraction, vibration, all that stuff.
Right.
But the people that can actually get it to work for them, and I feel like hypnotherapy could actually help people tap into those laws to actually make it work for them, because the law of attraction does not work for a lot of people because they can't
Right.
stay in that belief
Mm-hmm.
system. If they don't see it right away, it doesn't register. And we
Right.
have a lot of the baby boomers who were raised very, very differently, and
Mm-hmm.
they were raised with depression, or our parents, and they're just typically very negative when it comes
Yeah.
to like abundance and this stuff. So don't have a conversation with a baby boomer about it, because they're just not going to get it. They're going to be like, what do you mean I can't talk about debt? But that's my
Mhm.
reality. I'm like, because you're
Yeah.
fucking talking about it. That's why.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Whatever you put your mind on, right, you're going to attract all that stuff. And hypnotherapy really does help. And you can do self hypnosis. I mean, we do it every day, you just don't realize it. But doing self
Mm,
hypnosis and being able, like meditation,
yeah.
visualization. And a key thing that I think people miss is you have to feel it in your body too.
It's the
So
biggest thing. If you can't attract it, if you don't feel it. So you can look at your vision board,
exactly.
your mansion or your car or your family, whatever it is.
Yep.
But if you don't feel it, you already have it. I've actually been pretty good about that. I've been able to visualize my dream house. And when I'm in my car, I'm driving my car, not the car I'm actually driving. And I'm
Well,
having no problem with it at all, because I'm
yeah,
like, I don't care. Like, I'm not telling these people out loud that, like, this is my house. Look at the pool. It's so big.
right.
Yeah, no, but I know.
Right. Yeah.
That's all that matters.
Yeah, exactly. And what you're actually doing is you were telling your subconscious mind, this is how we live. So then your subconscious mind, and
Yeah.
then when you feel it in your body, it kind of like brings it all together. And then you your mind is going to work whether you know it is or not, because how many things do we do that we don't know why we do it? Well, your subconscious mind is going, oh, well, then that's the thing that we work towards. So if you are thinking of the house, the car, then your subconscious mind is going, it's actually actively every day looking for ways to make this happen. Because when you are feeling it and you are visualizing it, it thinks it happens.
Yeah.
So that is that's the power of all of this. And you are actually self hypnotizing you. You're self hypnotizing yourself. I hate when people say that. And
Yeah.
then I just said it.
Yeah. But it's so true. It's like really
Yeah.
visualizing. It really helps, like before bed, when the TV's off, the phone's away, you're ready
Oh, yeah.
before you go to bed. Like that's when I'll pick, walk myself through my home, getting my water before bed, brushing my teeth, putting on my night creams, getting into bed, all that
Yep.
stuff. Like as
Yeah.
clear as can be. The house has changed a little bit. It's changing a little bit as we go, but that's okay. But it's roughly
Yeah.
the same.
Right.
But yeah, it's one of those things, like eventually that's going to have to show up. And I couldn't do that, but it's
Mhm.
like when I'm actually doing it now, it's like I feel it. And that's why you have
Yes.
to like visualize yourself walking and moving. in these things, like whether if it's like a
Yes.
business, you see yourself like on the stage, you see yourself in the office, you see yourself hiring people, and you feel
Mhm.
that, like, what's it going to feel like,
Right.
So,
Yeah. I mean, sports players do it a lot too, where they can actually, I know one of my mentors, it was somebody who was like doing like archery, I think it was. And they were having like a mental block with getting their arrow into the bullseye. And they were like this really good archerist and blah, blah, blah. So anyway, she actually had him go through his mind step by step. And then she was able to pinpoint the moment where the block would happen. And that does a lot with the NLP that I was talking about, neuro linguistic programming. And it's not more of like context. So it's not really like what's going on around you. It's all what is going on in here. So, how is it going on in here? And then you're able to kind of like change that, like we were talking, like change it and be able to like just create more of like a fluid so that your subconscious and conscious are back in rapport with each other. Cause that's really what a mental block is when you're out of rapport with your minds are separated.
that's so interesting you said that. That's how I think people can like quickly like visualize that or get it. Yeah, like
Mm-hmm.
when you're experiencing low vibration or things aren't working or you're not meeting your goals because your two minds are not in sync. So how do you
Right.
get them into sync? So yeah, it's just so powerful. But I want to switch gears a little bit and I
Yeah.
want to talk about because you're starting a new kind of like you have a new project on your hands, like new company called
Yeah.
Power Mom Project. But before we go
Yep.
into like the mom project,
Mhm.
I think that around that you've talked to me off record about boundaries, feminine energy, staying calm, which could all kind of tie back into hypnosis. So let's start
Yep.
with like with boundaries. I think everybody hears this
Mhm.
and but they don't know, well, what are healthy boundaries and how do I make them clear without coming off as a total bitch?
Right. I know. And it's interesting because when a guy has boundaries, like nobody really thinks about it. They're like, yeah, that's cool. But when a woman has boundaries,
Oh,
they come off as a bitch, right?
yeah.
Isn't that interesting? Well, what happens is when a boundary is more of like a masculine energy thing. So when people look at women, you're not supposed to have all those boundaries because, you're feminine. Feminine energy is more flowing and more like being and, just like if you think of like a dance, it's kind of like that. Well, when you state your boundaries, like in kind of a more masculine way, you do come off as a bitch. Like, how dare you have boundaries? So, there's like some things you can do. I mean, just with life in general, knowing when to go to bed is like a huge thing because you are setting yourself up for healthy circadian rhythm. You know what that is, right?
Yeah.
When the sun comes up and goes down and your body is in sync with that. Um, Having healthy boundaries in relationships. So doing things that you enjoy for yourself. And if you want to invite somebody along, fine. If not, it's okay. Do stuff that you love that's creative and fills up your soul, And this is kind of why I created that project because I feel like, especially women, we take on so much and we don't know how to either delegate it or say no.
Yeah.
And we don't want to look like the bitch who says no all the time. We want to be like, oh, that nice girl who like helps everybody out.
I
Well,
used to.
that's
Now
not
I'm like,
always a good
no, I'm
thing.
a nice girl. I know I'm a nice girl. So people don't think
Right.
I'm nice. I'm like, well, then piss off.
Yeah.
I'm at that point now
Yeah.
where I'm
Oh,
like,
well, like
yeah.
if you're upset, you're upset.
Yeah.
Um, Also realizing too that you're you are going to be offended in life sometime because we all have triggers and really what an offense is when you're triggered by something. So it's like a trauma response.
Yeah.
Well, hypnotherapy can really help with you managing the triggers and responding differently to triggers.
Okay.
So when you do get offended, which is going to happen,
Right.
how long are you going to live in that offense? Or are you just going to be like, I'm offended. I don't have to be offended. I'm going to choose to let it go, forgive, and move on with my life. And then if you have people in your lives who are always offending you or being a jerk to you, You can like break up with them, break up a friendship, break up that. It's okay. Don't be around an energy vampire. Be around energy firecrackers, people who are going to light you up, people who are going to keep you in your flow.
Yeah. So if
So
you feel like
important.
you can't express your boundaries to people or your boundaries are being crossed,
Mhm.
sometimes you can't explain it. You can't talk your way out of it. You have to just leave. I mean, I recently had that with some guy that kept trying to pursue me, but he kept crossing my boundaries. And
Yeah.
I said, this person's an idiot. Like
Yeah.
I have to just block them and get them out of my life. Like you can't explain it. It was like dealing with a child. I'm like, this is
Yeah.
insane. It was like push back and be like, well, your boundaries aren't right because I think this way. And it's that you sometimes better to just be like, goodbye.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're good.
Exactly.
We're good.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can use some explicits. Like I'm
Yeah,
at,
that's okay.
go fuck yourself. Get out of my life.
Mhm.
I'm done.
Right.
And it felt great.
Totally.
And
And
it
yeah,
still,
of course it does. Right.
I don't
Because
regret.
because you're taking care of yourself. And I know there's like that
Yeah.
whole movement, like self-care, self-care. Well, it's true though. And boundaries are part of that.
Yeah. No, it's so true. No, I like that. I had a friend I was trying to help through and they weren't taking the advice and somebody said you've got to set a boundary. But I couldn't do it because the boundary was like stop talking about this. But
Oh,
because it wasn't helping. So it's like okay, I've got
right.
to word the boundary right. And then you realize some people just don't want to get out of their loop. They
No, that's right.
to thrive in that chaos and that negativity. And they'll never admit it because they don't know what's happening, but their subconscious mind is that they're thriving under these triggers
Hmm.
versus
Yes.
the other way around. But you are the sum of the people you hang out with. So
Yep.
choose wisely. You want to hang out with happy people, rich people, people that
Yeah.
inspire you to be better, you know?
Successful people who, yeah, who are thriving. Absolutely. And I'm glad you said that
Talk about
about
opportunity and
people.
not misfortunes all the time.
Yes.
'Cause
Yeah.
it's like a drain. I'm like, everybody has their
Yeah.
issue. Like, let's talk about opportunity to get you. And if you're in a shitty situation, we've all been there. Let's get you out of it by
Yeah.
not focusing on it. You
And
know?
it's okay to vent for a few minutes.
Yeah.
And then it's like, all right, then let's get out of this. And I'm so glad you said that about being around people who are negative, who don't want to get out of the negativity. And that's another thing with hypnotherapy. You cannot help somebody who is not willing to do the work and who doesn't want to be helped. So
Yeah.
we call it like the do with process. You have to work with me. I can't just do it to you. You
Yeah.
have to be part of this as well.
Yeah.
And when people don't want to be helped, it's pointless. So that's why like we do like discovery calls and stuff because I can
Yeah.
usually tell like right away, nope, you don't want to change. Not going to do the work. I'm not going to even try.
Yeah. You gotta take care of yourself. You have to want it before anyone else can come in and help you. It's so
Right. Yes.
let's talk about something you also mentioned, which is something that I feel that I personally struggle with. Um,
Okay.
feminine energy. Because I look like such a girl, but I'm like this closeted little frat boy. I'm like, of course, like, yeah. But I want to be more feminine to get what I want. But I also have to be very masculine because I'm all
Sure.
on my own and I don't have like anyone like to bat for me.
Yeah.
I have to be like, take me seriously. Don't fuck with, but
Yeah.
it's not helping me in like the personal relationship part of my life. And I
Right.
don't like it when people are like, we just want feminine and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I do too. But like, how do I use my feminine energy to get people to take me shopping? Let's do
Yes.
that.
Yeah. I'm going to put you on pause 1 second. I just dropped my earbud. I'm
Oh
sorry.
no.
Oh my,
Let's plug that shit back in. It must have been all my feminine energy. It just popped
I
right
think so. It was
in.
like, whoo, it's overflowing out of me. I love it. So feminine energy, I lost that for a while in my life. I felt like I had it a lot when I was a teenager and like, just doing the teenagery girl things and then get married, you become a mom and I don't know, I just one day was like, I don't know what even happened to myself. And it was funny because my husband and I were at dinner one night and I was playing with my hair and we were talking and he just stopped and he goes, since when did you start playing with your hair again? And I'm like, since when did I stop playing with my hair? Like what in the world? I didn't even notice it. But I could tell like it was kind of sad because I'm like, he misses that part of me. So I started watching, I know it sounds so cheesy, but it's true. I started watching movies and TV shows and then taking like really big notice of like the feminine characteristics of the lead
Oh,
female. So, okay, so for example, I would watch Friends and I would notice how Rachel was with Ross when they were together. And she'd be like, okay, honey, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't do that. I need to do that. So then I started practicing that because how do we get good at things? We have to practice it. So I'd be alone in my closet and I would literally like go through circumstances and situations and be like, okay, how would I, like I said before, how would I normally act in this situation? How do I want to be in this situation? So I would practice it, I would feel it, I would
ah,
visualize myself, and
yeah.
then I would try to walk it out. And it's going to take a little bit, especially if you're used to being more masculine. It might take a little bit, like when I'd see my husband come home and if he was frowning or something, like that was a trigger for me. I don't know. So just walking through it over and over and keep practicing it and keep taking notice of it. And then now it's like, when I do something that's like cute and flirty, I'll be like, oh, just like, oh, I'm so proud of myself. I just did that without even thinking about it. Like
Yeah, because they
it's just,
always
it's an
say
unconscious thing now.
like the feminine energy is like you don't basically it's like kind of funny. It's like the feminine energy is the lazy energy. The masculine
Yeah.
energy is the do it energy. So that's how people
Yep.
can break it down. Because like, what the fuck do you mean by feminine energy? I've got a flowing skirt, but it's like you don't have to do anything. You just sit there and you're like, okay,
Exactly.
okay, I don't know how to
It's
open my door. I don't know how to open that door. I can't fend for
That's exactly
myself.
it. Yeah.
I want to punch
And
the
then
person
if
in the
you
face, but you need to do it with the opposite. Don't do that around your friends. They'll fucking
no,
whip
no,
your ass
no.
real quick.
Yeah.
Feminine energy is not to be around your friends, only
Right.
around respected people.
Well, it's okay to
Nobody
be
talks
feminine
about it,
around your girlfriends, who
but
like
nobody's
you
going
go
to be
out
opening the door for
dancing.
you. Nobody's picking up your
Right.
stuff.
No, no, no.
Yeah,
Right. But if you think of like going out and dancing, that's more of a feminine thing, like more
yeah,
of the arts kind of stuff.
yeah.
That's more feminine. So, I mean, I am a very musical person and we are a musical family. So I would even put on all this music and then just dorky dance around my house just so that I could feel like the feminine stuff. When I was like feeling like, oh, I'm kind of dreading, later today or something. And then
Yeah.
it would be like, oh, I feel more flowy and I feel more refreshed. Um, yeah, it's a powerful thing because without sounding like I'm manipulative, it's
Right.
not manipulating. It's just you do get what you want when you're around masculine people. And it's not like you're asking for $1 million. You're just like,
Right.
hey, can you help me with this? Because I really need help. And how much more is the masculine energy going to be willing to help in circumstances where if you're masculine with the masculine,
Ah,
you're not going to quite get the result that you're looking for. Believe me,
right.
I've
Yeah.
lived
Because
it
then when they
out.
want to help, and then you're like, I don't need help. What are you talking about? But
Right.
it's
Yeah,
so,
you get off that vibe. They're not going to help you. Like, whatever, open your
yeah.
damn
Like
door
people used to
yourself.
say, like step into your feminine energy, and I would just cringe. Every part of me, I would just feel like, "Wah," and I'd want to throw. So I'm like, ugh. And then I'm like, wait it, because I didn't understand it. I didn't understand that it was naturally in us. And I didn't
Yeah.
understand how some girls that I thought were the most boring human beings on the planet could get all this stuff from men. And I'm like, I just want a bag and a shopping spree too. What the fuck? I suck
Right.
too. Only when I
Yeah.
like. I mean, now it's only for marriage. But you know what I mean? But I'm like, what are they
Oh
doing?
God, I love
What,
you.
what are they doing? And then I'm like, oh, they're just chilling. They're just
Yeah,
big. And, you know what I
exactly.
mean? Like, I mean, it's just, but it's funny. It's like you don't have to. You just have to, like, if you want to be in your feminine energy on a date, just do nothing.
Yeah,
Literally show up and be like, nice
that's
to
the
see
key.
you.
And I feel like I'm feminine on dates just because I think so much in my everyday life and I have so much going on
Yeah.
that when I get to a restaurant, I don't want to look at the menu. I don't want to pick out my entree. I don't want to do any of that shit. I literally am like, I'm allergic to shellfish. Like, you know what? If
Please
you
do
want to
this for
order, I
me.
would love this. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I just want to chill. So I'm
And
like,
that you bring up a great point. What's that? Are you a little bit
I
feminine in
said,
that
I
way?
guess I am in my
Yeah.
feminine way because I'm like, I don't
Yeah.
want to do anything. So the feminine, so just if you feel like you're not being feminine, just get real lazy on
Yeah,
the
right. Oh, I can't do it. And that's a great point. So you kind of brought up two things. The first one is just being. And when you are just being, you are able to see your worth as your individual self. Like who you were created to be is enough. Now, yes, we have to work and do all this other stuff, peripherally, but your worth doesn't come from that. Your worth comes from you being you, the the created being that you are.
Yeah.
And when people start to realize that, it's like a trauma response when I have to do this to get the worth. I have to please this person to get the worth. I got to make this much money to get the worth, whatever it is. No, just practice being. And even if you do it for like a minute a week, a minute a day for a week, and then go up to 2 minutes. If you have to start that small, that's okay. But just sitting, like literally, this is what I had to do. I had to just sit and be like, okay, I'm
Yeah.
worthy.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, whatever, I'm just amazing. And
Yeah.
I truly feel that. Like I can say that. And I would say like 2 years ago, I would not have been able to believe that, but I could literally just sit here and be like, I'm amazing. If you don't like me, okay, you don't have to. I'm good
Isn't
with
that
that.
the great thing that comes with age, though? It's like you're just the stuff that used to upset you or you'd be offended by. Like I had a situation today where it's like this friend of a friend, he's more of an acquaintance, but he annoys me. I don't know
Yeah.
why. He just annoys me. And I felt like, like just thinking people are like, oh, let's do a party with him. I'm like, no, I don't, but I think it's because he's taking advantage of my friend. It deep down
Oh,
irks
yeah.
me.
Hmm.
Um,
Sure.
but yeah, it's like, you know what? Like I'm just at that point where I'm like, why am I even thinking about this stupid person? Like, I don't know
Yep.
why he annoys me. He just annoys me. But I'm like, okay, something's going on here that's like something. But yeah, it's like you get to that point where you're just like, no, I don't like you.
Hmm.
I don't. Sorry. See ya. And if you don't like me,
Yeah.
like her. Like it's great. That's what comes with age. With
Yes.
with wrinkles comes great confidence and wisdom. But for most
Right.
women, they're like, oh my God, I've got to put so much shit in my face that nobody's going to recognize me. I had somebody talking about
Yeah.
facelifts the other day, and I'm like, oh shit, am I due for one of those in about 5 years?
No, don't start
I,
thinking that because then
oh,
your
you're right.
subconscious is going to be like,
Start sagging my
okay, well,
face.
let's look for it. Yeah.
You're
Don't
right.
like if you think
I
of
look
age creams,
22. I look
there you go.
22. I look 22. I feel
I'm
22.
forever young.
22.
Yep.
Well, I don't feel 22 because I feel like 22-year-olds are fucked up in the head.
Yeah, you are.
Like they're just like they don't know how to process their emotions. Everything's
Right.
drama, blah 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 blah. But don't worry, 22-year-olds, if you're listening, when you get to your 35 about, that's when things start to shift and you're like, hold on a second. None of that really mattered anymore. Here we go.
Yep.
So there
You
is
got it.
hope. There is
Yep.
hope. So I want to talk about dive more into this the powerful mom project that you got going
Oh,
on.
yay.
You're like
Yay.
the power mom, and I feel like I'm not a mom, but being a mom is a job that is very thankless but very rewarding. And maybe one day I will get to be a mom, but I don't know if it's in my cards.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
let's hear it.
So I created the Powerful Mom Project, and it's because of everything that I went through. And I want to teach women how to prevent that or how to get reconnected to your identity. Because when you do become a mom, a lot of your identity is sucked, unfortunately, and you don't even realize that you're doing it until it's too late. And then all of that
Yeah.
behavior that you are doing, it doesn't serve you anymore. And it doesn't serve your kids, it doesn't serve your husband. And when you hear that statement, if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy, it's so true. Like, I mean, I was miserable. So I'm trying to help prevent that with other women or get them back on track without taking as long as it took me.
Right, because
Rough.
you must feel like when you start to lose your identity, you must start second guessing the decisions you made, which you
Yeah.
never want to do when it comes to having children. But you're like, if I didn't do this, how much better my life would be. And it's
Yeah.
like, no, this was your path you were meant. And there's nothing that can replace the nuclear family. No amount of wealth,
Right.
fame, nothing can replace.
No.
The government will tell
No.
you otherwise, but
Yep.
I tell you it's not true. The nuclear family is everything. Find
That's
yourself.
right.
And I don't even have a family, but I'm going to. I mean, I have a
You
family,
are.
not like
No,
my
I get you. Yeah.
I don't have
Right.
a family that came out of my vagina. I have a family, the family I came out of their vagina. I'm in the dirty mode today. Sometimes
Yeah, that's
I'm in
okay.
clean mode and then I go to dirty mode.
You could be whatever mode you want with me. I am perfectly okay with all of that.
I'm just switching back and forth to my feminine and my masculine.
Sure.
No, I
I
think
love it.
this is so great. And when we met at Mastermind, you were talking about this, and I'm like, this is such a cool thing. And I wasn't even a mom, but all my friends are moms, and I hear what they go through, and I'm like, that's exhausting. Like, how do they have the energy for that? I have a dog, and I'm exhausted. But I think it's such a great thing because
Thank you.
the moms that can keep their own individual identity while still fulfilling the needs for the children at hand are going to be happier. And they're also going to end up being a better role model for their kids.
You got it. And my whole thing is building powerful families, one mom at a time. And it's exactly that. Because when you are powerful and you step into your power and your powerful feminine energy, your kids are going to follow suit and they are naturally just going to, like mold into it and they're going to love you. Of course, they're going to love you no matter what. But I mean, my kids will even be like, Mom, you're so different than you were like 5 years ago. And I mean, we had great times. They had a great childhood. Like, there's nothing, I don't know. Of course, I'm sure I like screwed them up in some way or another. Like, don't we all? Like,
You're
whatever.
only
But
human. Everybody
exactly.
screwed everybody up. It's good.
Yeah. But yeah.
I'm sure you're
But
fine.
the thing about it is that when they notice, it's kind of like all the work that I've done on myself. It's like there's no greater reward than hearing them say that because it's like validation. Not that I need their validation, but it's just another level of it where you're like, oh my gosh, I'm actually impacting my family because of the positive choices that I decided to make. And then my husband and I are even better together. So when you're on par with your husband and you guys are like lockstep, being a team, doing what you got to do. He's in his masculine because you're in your feminine. That's another thing that's huge about the feminine is it really does allow men to feel safe being their masculine. And then you're opening that way for the masculine energy. And then it helps you because then they're creating like the masculine space for you to just be. So it's all like this never ending circle. And then when you are doing this and your kids see it, everybody's happy. Like you said, the nuclear family, everybody's like pulling their weight, working together in their own energy, what they're supposed to be doing. And it's just beautiful. Like I don't know how else to describe it other than it's just beautiful.
Yeah, I love that. It's like being in harmony, having your two minds in
Yes.
rapport. Everything works in
Yeah.
balance. I always said
Yeah.
that we overcomplicate life. We just, our surroundings are trying to keep up with people, compete with people, and we just uncomplicated it, which I feel is a feminine energy of just letting things
It
go
is.
as they should, going with the flow. Life is
Yeah.
just, you can't control anyone but yourself. And
Yep.
so you just gotta just be. And
Yeah.
then, so it's like life is just not complicated. We make it complicated
No. Yeah. We do. We
by like
do.
all this stuff and the thoughts and the opinions and the worry, all that stuff. But yeah, and so
Yeah.
what's great with this program too is as a trained hypnotherapist, you could actually help moms even more, not only through the
Yeah.
words and the coaching, but you can actually be like, all right, let's figure out what's going on when the kids come
Right.
home from school. What's happening when your husband comes home
Yeah.
from school? What is happening? That's got to be really
Yes.
powerful.
It's awesome because then what I teach women is you're not parenting from a place of hurt anymore. and fractionalized things, you're parenting from a place of wholeness. So the trauma that you had when you were a kid, because all of us have it, we go through all that. And it's kind of like the technique that I did with you when you went back to your past and you were kind of like floating above your timeline.
Yes.
I call it the clean sweep because I do it a little bit differently than most people. And we go back, we clear out like all the trauma, we kind of discover what's going on here. And then you're able to, like I said before, live consciously so that you are able to stop and say, okay, this is where I was, this is what I would do, this is what I'm going to do now. And when women are doing that, when moms are doing that, then it even clears the way for their own kids to do that and generations to come too, because it's like a generational thing. I could just like do an episode on just that.
Yeah, because it's kind of like the vibrations and like attracts like, and you're starting to like bring in just, you have more of a positive kind of energy. But you talked about the timeline. You mentioned the timeline, and when I did my session with you, you had me float above this timeline, and I want to bring that up because I think it's such a great thing, because I have done it before I went to bed, and I think this is something we should leave the listeners with.
Okay.
So I'm going to let you kind of walk them through it, but I really liked how it's like you visualize your timeline, right? So you almost like a ruler from like the back to the front. Whatever side is your beginning, when you were born, your childhood, the middle of it is where you are at that time. If you're 80, the middle towards the end, but let's just put us in the middle. And then you're over it, so you can see everything that's happened in the past, but also like paying attention to maybe the lessons. So you can be like, what was the lesson there? What was this? But then you can actually, I feel like when you did the thing where you're floating above your timeline, you could clearly see your future.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing?
Talk about like how people can quickly do that before they go to bed to start syncing those two minds together.
So before you go back to your past, you're going to close your eyes and you're going to elicit your timeline. And some people have like a crazy one. Mine goes from here and then my future is in front of me. It doesn't matter, whatever your timeline is. So then you're going to float above your timeline, like where you are in the present. You're like sort of like you're going to visualize yourself from like an angelic point of view. So you're kind of floating out of your body a little bit, right? Like just in your mind, of course.
Yeah.
And then you can go back to like, even if it's just that morning, and go back to a time in the day that you need to clear out like a negative response you had like with your boss or something. Then you float above that. You can go down into that. You can see what you saw, hear what you heard, and then whatever lessons that you need to take from that situation. So if it was a negative emotion, which is really what we're doing, clearing out negative emotions, you're going to take the lesson you learned, whether it's I should have acted differently, or maybe I took him the wrong way. I remember going through that myself. And before I went through it, I heard in my mind how I thought it happened. But then after I cleared all that out, it was, oh, this is actually what they said and how they said it. So your lesson could be, I really need to listen to people better, or I need to learn how to read people better. Whatever the lesson is. I mean, your subconscious mind will tell you, you'll figure it out because it's always working. Then you're going to float back up above it. You're going to look around. And then you're going to float like to the side, like diagonal from this situation. So you're going to see it again from this angle, but diagonal. And then you're going to look towards your future. And then when you start to float back to the present, you're going to take all the lessons learned along the way. So if it's even like a few years ago, you're going to take the lessons learned from certain points in your timeline that had to relate to this negative emotion. And then you can put them in your heart. You could do whatever you need to do, put them in your gut, in your sternum. I don't know. Whatever your subconscious mind allows you to do. And then you just kind of float back into the present, and then you can float back into your body. When I go through this with people, it's completely different for everybody. Some people, I feel like, I think it was with you when I had you float to your future and throw like as if they were stones into your future. So it was like the lessons you learned here, then you were putting them in your future.
It wasn't like stones. Right? I felt like from what I remember, it was like little nuggets of gold.
Oh yes, that's it. Yeah, that's what we call them. Little nuggets of gold, because
like, drop. Yeah, it was really, really But I like that. Like when I was originally thinking of you talking about this, I was thinking all the way back in lessons learned. But I like that if you're like, if something upset you that day or that week
Yes.
or in the last couple years, go back,
Right.
really visualize yourself floating over it like an angel and going back and grabbing the lessons. Because
Mhm.
sometimes we say, oh, I must have learned a lesson, but we don't actually know what it is until you really.
Right.
So I think that's a great day, especially a great exercise, especially if you've had a rough day. Or
Hmm.
for me, it's like I'm anxious in a good way, not in a bad way, about an upcoming project I have launching. I want to know when exactly we'll be ready to launch. I want to make sure it's perfect. I don't know. Nobody knows when they launch a business. Is it going to be wildly profitable or
Yeah.
not? Is it, you know what I mean? And
Oh, yeah.
there's a lot of anxiety going on around that, but I know that that's negative energy. So I'm trying to more like visualize like the success of it and don't worry about anything else. Like nothing else matters. It's going to work. It's going to work. Everything's going to work. And you're going to learn from that to also do more things from that.
Yes.
Just stuck on that one thing. I think when people want to start a business or get successful, they get fixated on one business or one idea. When
Yeah, that's true.
in from multiple ideas. How many TV shows I've created that like have been turned down and like just disappeared that like got to the network? A lot. So
Yeah.
now when I create concepts, I'm not attached to any of these. I like them.
Good.
I
Yeah.
put my heart into them. I feel that they're going to impact the world in a positive way. But I don't care because I've got 17 other things going on. So
Yep.
it's like when something doesn't hit, it doesn't hit me that hard because I'm not attached to any of it. And I think
Exactly. That's
I just
huge.
want to be successful. I don't give a
Hmm.
shit where it comes in.
Right.
I want to do all these different things. I think the majority of people that are very successful will tell you, I had no idea where my money was going to come from. I just knew it was
Hmm.
gonna come. I had no idea that that weird thing we created would be the one that brought all the money.
Right.
That's just got to be open. But yeah,
Exactly.
I have a lot of excitement anxiety, a little
Okay.
bit of nervousness. So I'm trying to like kind of cope with that. Um, to make sure that everyone's taken care of and everybody's happy and everybody's, their investments paid back and
Sure.
it's a lot.
Yeah. 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 It is a lot. And it's funny that you say that because that's kind of like how moms feel, except just about the kids, so you're feeling those same emotions, but
Yeah.
it's just it's different content, a different context, but kind of like the same content where you're worried about everybody. Well, so are moms. So, I mean, we all have those emotions just in different ways, like with different people. And the good thing, anxiety, you can actually use the timeline to help with your anxiety. So if you would ask your subconscious mind, what circumstance, what exact situation, like try to have it pinpoint a situation in the future. So for example, if it's with somebody who has anxiety about doing a big presentation for their company,
Yeah.
you can do the timeline. You go out like 15 minutes after the presentation is finished. So you're
Okay.
done with it. How do you want to feel 15 minutes after this is finished? How do you want to feel, if you're writing a book when it's released? How do you want to feel 15 minutes after that? And then, like you already do, visualize, feel it in your body, feel the excitement or whatever it is that you want to feel. And then that'll really help kind of like calm the anxiety down. And then you're able to look forward to it with a positive outlook.
Yeah. No, I
Yeah,
like
it's
that.
like this is so
Really
powerful.
good. Yeah. Because I think that's good because a lot of us do have anxiety, which is simply worrying about the future, worrying about
Yep.
something that has not happened. But I like the whole travel on your timeline and picture yourself cashing that check, giving that,
Yes.
buying that dinner, but pardon me,
Yep.
buying that house,
Okay.
and that will help
Yes.
anxiety. Because
Yep.
the truth of the matter is, it's funny because any of us could die on any given day.
Yeah.
None of us have anxiety about dying. We just have anxiety
Yeah.
about trivial shit that's probably never going to happen.
Exactly. Yeah.
Isn't that fun?
Yes.
So
It is
anxiety is
like
kind of
it's not like what's going to happen like
the total
if you
bullshit energy is what it is. Like
right.
I feel like somebody gave it a name and now we give it too much attention.
Amen to that.
I was like,
Way too much.
can we take this name away? Can we just banish it from the dictionary and be like, if you're nervous about something, something right now is not good. So figure it
Yeah.
out. So I need to tell
Yeah.
myself. Such
Yeah.
a stupid
I know.
anxiety. I hate you. But we all have it because we get nervous about
Yeah.
something that's unknown in the future. But I feel like I try
Exactly.
to switch myself and I'm like, if you knew the future, exactly how it would go, it's not that exciting anymore. The excitement is not knowing.
Yes.
'Cause you're like,
That's
it's
true.
exciting, but like, I already know what's going to happen. It's like watching Home Alone for the 50th time, like I do.
Yes. Like
You know,
it's not
like
funny anymore.
it's not it's not that sad anymore. Like when the
Right.
mom come, I'm like,
Right.
So
What's oh
yeah,
go ahead.
you don't really want to know, I guess.
Yeah. And the thing about anxiety is it's basically the same feeling in your body. Your body registers it the same as it does excitement, except that it's unknown. So that's why it's the anxiety. So if you have fear of the unknown, like that's something that you can also go back in your timeline and figure out, okay, where did this fear of the unknown come from? I mean, I think sometimes it's just a basic human response on some level, but on other levels, there's there could be some things there where fear of missing out, fear of not knowing, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Fear is actually the first thing that we go through and clear out because fear can cause even anger.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a pretty great thing. And one story, like I don't know how much time we have. One
Yeah,
story
go ahead.
really quick. I had this client the other day who we did this clean sweep with her, and she pinpointed something in her dad's life when her dad was young. And because like you can take negative emotions and energy from the past generations even, and like some people call it generational curses, generational blessings.
Yeah.
Like it's a real thing. So she went back into her dad's timeline and she was looking around, and I just felt led to tell her, put your hand on your dad's heart in this moment, and obviously he can't see you, you can see him, and then if you feel led, give him a hug. So we went back to her present. She's like, oh my God, I feel great. This is cool. 20 minutes after the call ends, she texts me and says her dad in real time could actually feel her hug him when he was 14. So remember how I said the unconscious mind?
And he wasn't in
He
this.
wasn't there. No,
Did he know
no,
she
he
was
wasn't
doing
there. No, he had no idea what was going on.
I know you and I need to get together again because I've got like some other stuff we talked about a little bit, like that's coming up
Yeah.
too.
Okay.
Where I'm like just nervous because I'm like, this has to be successful because I have people depending on me. And I'm
Sure.
like, shouldn't have that. And they would say it's not true, but it's causing anxiety. Like that's why I like to just
Okay.
I just like to take care of myself because then it's like, well, I can survive on a park bench. So I'm good. So I don't have that. So now it's like
Yeah.
when you start to have dependence, you start to get, I'm more worried about those people than I am about me. And
Sure.
that's where but we'll talk offline about that for sure. But I'm like, I need
Yeah.
a drive because now I feel like I can just like identify it more. Like this is what's going on and it's keeping me up at night. And I'm trying to be like, no, that's stupid. Put this thought in. Put this thought in. Like this is dumb. You're somehow your a scarcity mindset is creeping its way back in. And you've
Okay.
got to push it because you wouldn't think that way. You'd be like, well, I don't care if it's not this thing, it's going to be the next thing. I'm rich no matter what. So fuck it. That's how I need to think.
Yeah.
And that's how
Okay.
all y'all should think.
Yep.
We've all been broke and we've all struggled. And there's so many people around the world that are struggling.
Mm-hmm.
I've gone up, I've gone down, I've lost everything, gained it, lost everything, gained it. Life's a challenge. But when you're perpetually stuck in challenge, the problem is not the economy.
Right.
The problem is not your education. The problem is not your family. The problem is you.
You.
So
Mm-hmm.
if you want to change it and stop complaining and stop being stuck, find somebody like Jaina or go to Jaina. You can do it via Zoom and start figuring out what those are because I used to think like, this circumstance or I'm doing this and that's why I don't have this. It's all bullshit. The bullshit we tell
Yep.
ourselves, heal ourselves, figure it out, and there's no excuse not to thrive in this world.
Yeah, absolutely.
People that are hurting because there are a lot of people hurting. You're talking to somebody who goes through that. who has been through it. I'm not talking, even though I look like I'm talking from a place of, what's the word? Like, I feel like such a snob, or like, there's no excuse to be poor. Okay, it's fine. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't look poor, but like, 2 months ago, it wasn't that great. But yeah, you have to identify that it's actually you. And I think that there's people, like I have some relatives that I feel like they like struggling because it's this victim mentality that they get on. It's very sad to see. You can't help people like this. And they want to have people feel sorry for them, but they're the ones suffering in return.
Yep.
So you find yourself like stuck or anxious or worried, or the bills, inflation, blah, 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 blah. Like, let's get ourselves to where we can say, well, fuck inflation. We can just afford it anyways. I want to get to that mindset. And I'm rambling, so I'm going to stop, but it's hard to say this without coming off like a complete snob. But if people really knew what I went through, what I've been through, I can speak on this, because I've been at a point where I didn't know if there'd be a roof over my head. Multiple times. Yeah. Like,
I've been there with twins.
Yeah, right.
They're going to be a roof over our heads in a month. I've been
true.
there.
It's like, we don't have the face of poverty, but yet we've been in poverty.
We have. Yep.
And luckily it's like, I was able to pick back up and get there. But, don't judge a book by its cover. You just don't know. That's why I think everyone that has a Gucci belt is poor.
And here's me like shopping at Target, getting my stuff.
Oh God, do you have a good interest rate on your credit card that you haven't paid off? Like, I just think they're poor. Because I'm like, why are you spending that stupid money on that stupid belt? But if somebody sends me one for free, I'll wear it. Actually, I won't now. I won't wear it now. Remember, it used to be all the rage, the Gucci belt.
Now I'm not. Yes. Oh yeah.
So throw them away. It's like the number one sign of like lack of money. Like, you don't want to look rich. You want to be rich.
Right.
That's
exactly.
That's why I have this face I have. I'm just kidding.
Oh, you're awesome.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so where can people find you? You guys literally have to go to her. It's amazing, because I'm going back, because I'm sitting here and I'm like, I got to get off this podcast because I'm going to start revealing shit that is not public. So where do we find you?
JainaJordan.com. You can
spell that because a lot of people might not know how to spell that. Spell your website.
They don't. Nobody knows how to spell my name. It's JainaJordan.com.
Perfect.
And you can find me at Jaina Jordan Official. That's my Instagram handle. And then you can find me on Facebook too.
Okay.
I'm all over the place. Just taking up all the internet real estate. It's all good.
Yeah, exactly. That's what you need to be doing. That's what everyone else is doing. Yeah. But you guys, I've been through a session with her, and I'm not like, floating her boat or anything, because she's on the show and she's a guest. She's great. It was amazing. It was really life-changing, and I can't wait to do my next one. I was bragging to our producer about you. If you're struggling and you feel like you can't get out of your way and you're trying to do these things, like maybe hypnosis is the actual thing that can just flip that switch. I say, if you're trying to live an abundant, amazing life, I don't feel that you should limit yourself to anything. You should do everything. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not? All right. Well, thank you so much for being our guest on this episode.
Welcome. My pleasure.
Of course. And thanks to everybody who's listening. Don't forget to rate, review, subscribe, all that good stuff. Helps us out tremendously. And we will see you next time to find out who's next.
Hey, your host here, Madison Malloy. Please make sure to subscribe to the show on all podcast platforms, and please rate and review us on iTunes and Spotify. Also, if you have any questions or comments, you can email us at contact@nexttomadison.com. I thank you again for listening. Bye.